I'm a very dangerous man.
Come on now.
It get dangerous.
Come on now. Now, we got some bad news from Casey Rennie.
Day 5 of Browns training camp, first padded practice of the year. And in the span of about 90 seconds, Shedeur Sanders threw one of the best balls of camp and then watched his own receiver go down right in front of him. Casey Kitchens hit the ground favoring his shoulder on the exact play that proved Shadur can put a football wherever he wants it. Two things happened at once, a miracle connection and a scare. And what happened after the whistle tells you more about this offense than the throw itself. Let's set the scene, because this is not a normal day 1. This is the first day the Browns put on pads. That matters. Practices before this were shorts and helmets, low contact, controlled reps. Pads change everything. Guys hit different, protections get tested for real, and quarterbacks find out fast if their line can actually hold up. Reports out of Berea called it a sloppy day for the offense as a whole. Every quarterback in that QB room was hovering right around 50% completion. Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur, all of them dealing with a defense that was clearly bringing juice on day 1. Jared Verse and Quinshawn Judkins reportedly got into it on the field. Trash talk flying, energy up. Tyson Campbell and Mason Graham were named standouts on that side of the ball. So this was not a track meet for the offense. This was a grind. And in the middle of that grind, Shedeur Sanders threw 2 touchdowns. 2! On a day where completion percentage was down across the board for every quarterback on the roster. One went to Gage Larison late in a 2-minute drill, a ball people on site called a mic drop moment. The other went to Casey Kitchens, and that one is the play everybody needs to slow down and actually look at, because it is not just a stat, it is a full sequence. Protection call, coverage read, ball placement, and then almost immediately after, Casey on the ground. Here's the claim that's already floating around. Some people are framing this as a bad day for Casey Kitchens and stopping there. Injury, shoulder, don't like to see it, moving on. That is the shallow read. The real story is what led up to it, and that story is all Shadur.
Is he in the green? Is he in the green Nike? That thing is kind of nice. That thing is kind of clean. But go ahead, Shadur. Show me what you're doing.
Stop right there for a second, because before we get to the injury, you need to understand what that touchdown actually was. Shadur worked the pocket on that play. Not a scramble drill, not a broken play saved by athleticism. He operated in the pocket, unleashed the ball underneath, and by the sound of it on sight, nobody expected Casey Kitchens to separate that fast. The defense simply lost him. That is not luck. That is a quarterback trusting a route, trusting a receiver, and putting the ball in a spot where only his guy could catch it. Now, here is where it gets more interesting. This was not the only rep where Shadur found Casey Kitchens. He found him again later working out of the pocket, then back in the pocket, using what people on site described as a pulling guard technique to shift protection and buy himself an extra beat. That's not receiver talent bailing out a quarterback. That's operation. That's a guy checking protections at the line, reading where the pressure is coming from, and adjusting before the snap even happens. And that connects to something bigger that's been said about this offense all camp. A lot of people have talked about Shedur's chemistry with Denzel Boston. Fair, that's real, but Casey Kitchens has been running with the 1s and 2s, getting schemed touches, getting force-fed the ball early to get him going. That is coach speak for, this is a guy we want live in this offense. When a rookie receiver is drawing that kind of usage in padded practice, and a rookie quarterback is finding him on back-to-back plays, including a touchdown, that is not a one-off. That is a building connection. So by the time Casey Kitchens goes down, this was already the best rep of his young camp. He wasn't hurt on a random throwaway snap. He got hurt on the exact play that proved the connection with Shadur is real.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, balls out, balls in a perfect spot. And I would like to take a little bit of second to really break this down, but I want to make sure that you get to see all of the different videos that are cooking up here. Now, the first touchdown of the day, I believe, was this ball from Shadur to Casey Conception. So while, if you ask a lot of people, I think this was Harold Fannon's day, right? To really coming out. There was a great connection with Casey and Shedeur Sanders.
So here's the question nobody's really asking. If Shadur can already move a pocket and layer a ball like that on day 5, what happens when Casey Kitchens is fully healthy and running full speed for a whole camp? Now, let's get to the injury itself, because the way it happened matters. This came out of a 2-minute drill situation, roughly 90 seconds on the clock, and it was the same sequence as the touchdown. Casey went down on that exact rep. He came up favoring his shoulder, not something you ever want to see from a young receiver in his first padded practice. But here's the actual update, straight from what people on site reported. He walked off the field under his own power, no cart, no assistance needed. And after practice wrapped, he was out there signing autographs for fans. That is a real detail, and it matters, because it tells you this was a scare, not a disaster. Compare that to how some of this gets framed online. The second something like this happens, it gets stretched into worst-case scenario language before anyone even knows the real severity. That's not how you cover a football team. The facts here are simple. Shoulder issue, walked off on his own, signing autographs 20 minutes later. That's a guy managing soreness, not a guy heading for a long absence. Ice it, maybe pull him back a little in the next session, and see how he responds. That's the actual next step, not a headline about a season-ending injury that nobody has evidence for. And this is where Shedur's part of the story comes back in. Because remember, this rep with Casey Kitchens was already the peak connection of the day before the injury even happened. That means the tape everyone should be watching isn't about worrying whether Shedeur has a receiver to throw to. It's about confirming he already found one. The injury doesn't erase the rep. If anything, it puts a spotlight on it. Because now everybody's going back to watch exactly how Shedeur got him the ball.
Encouraging, so shout out to that. Now here is the scenario in which Casey was slow to get up. It was a 90-second situation. So in that touchdown you saw was Shedeur in his 2-minute, I guess 90-second, situation, right? This was Casey going down. You don't like to see that. Apparently, he did walk off on his own, his own power. And then after the practice, he was signing autographs. So hopefully, it's not too bad. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying, throw some ice on it. Maybe take a little break, and then we're gonna be back to it.
Reality check. A guy signing autographs 20 minutes after going down is not a guy in crisis. Keep that in mind before you believe every worst-case take you see today. Here's the bigger truth in all of this, and it's bigger than one injury scare. Shedeur Sanders is already operating like a quarterback who reads a defense before the ball is even snapped. Earlier in that same practice, on a completely different rep, he identified an overload blitz look before the snap, brought his tight end in for extra protection, called a full slide left for his line, and still got the ball out in time for a big completion. That is not something you coach into a rookie in 5 days. That's processing speed. That's a guy who sees ones and threes before the play even starts. Put that next to what happened with Casey Kitchens, and you start to see the pattern. Layering a ball into a tight window between the hashes, moving the pocket with a pulling guard concept, diagnosing protection on the fly. These are quarterback traits, not receiver traits, and they're showing up in week 1 of pads on a day where every other quarterback in that building was struggling to complete half their throws. So when people frame this story as just an injury update, they're missing the actual headline. The headline is that Shedeur Sanders is already building something real with this rookie receiver room, and the one play that got interrupted by injury was the clearest proof of it yet. Casey Kitchens getting a scare doesn't take that away. If he's back out there soon, which every early sign points to, that connection with Shedeur just gets more reps to grow. Quick recap before we close this out. Day 5 of Browns camp, first day in pads, and it was a sloppy day across the board for every quarterback on the roster, except in one specific area. Shedeur Sanders threw 2 touchdowns, one to Gage Larison in a 2-minute drill, and one to Casey Kitchens on a rep that also showed off pocket movement and protection command. Right after that connection, Casey Kitchens went down favoring his shoulder, walked off under his own power, and was signing autographs after practice. Not a disaster, a scare on the back of the best rep of his camp so far. And earlier in that same session, Shedeur diagnosed a full overload blitz before the snap and still delivered the ball on time. 2 separate reps, same message. This quarterback is already ahead of where a lot of people expected him to be on day 5. So here's where this leaves us. One quarterback quietly outplaying the rest of the QB room on the toughest day of camp so far, and one rookie receiver who just proved he's already part of the plan, scare and all. Do you think Casey Kitchens comes back within the week, or does this shoulder linger longer than the Browns are letting on? Drop your prediction below, smash like, and subscribe.